Sqaud! You don't have to worry about mana fixing even though it's a 5-color deck tonight. God Sqaud! Oh yeah guys, hey, what's up? It's Nate here from Pop's Culture Shop, bringing you a Magic the Gathering Commander deck tech. Today we're talking about the God Sqaud. We obviously have here a 100-card singleton deck. And I'd like to start off by saying that this is definitely falls on the fun side of the Commander spectrum, and not really the competitive. You would want to play this deck if you like playing a different game of Magic every time you sit down. And this deck definitely never plays the same way twice. I mean, one game you could be playing Thassa and Karametra trying to get them up, and the next game you could have like, you know, Xenagos and like Kruphix. So definitely a fun deck. And let's just dive in and start talking about the cards. And as you can see, per the namesake, we have the Sqaud. We're playing all 15 gods from the Theros block. And that's really what the deck centers around. It's a really fun deck. The whole time you're just cramming gods, trying to get devotion up, you know, playing defense until you get your army big enough and you can just kind of hit people in the face. And it's a lot of politicking, which is fun. The commander, we're using Sliver Hivelord. Now, there's a couple different options we have here. Obviously, it has to be a 5-color deck because we need all the colors for all the gods. So Sliver Hivelord is one of our options. Our other good option is Child of Alara. The reason you would want to play him is because all of your gods are indestructible. Child of Alara says whenever it dies, destroy all creatures on the battlefield. So we're destroying everything else except for our gods when he dies. On the other hand, with Sliver Hivelord, he himself is indestructible. So we can either have the Child of Alara, which we want to die to use as a board wipe, or we can have Sliver Hivelord, which is just an indestructible source of devotion for all of the colors, which we're usually dropping on turn 4 or turn 5. So it's really up in the air. I definitely like playing Sliver Hivelord just because I like putting a critical mass of things onto the battlefield. But I'll let you decide which one you want to play, and I think they're both fine. I think there's arguments for both of them. But I just went with Sliver Hivelord because I like him the best. I'm not really going to talk about all the gods, just pointing out that they're definitely all in the deck, and that's definitely what the whole thing revolves around. This is a very flavorful deck. We have all the gods, and we also have all the gods' weapons. I said earlier it's not very super competitive, and it's more on the fun side, and it plays different every time, and this goes into that. You never know if you're going to draw one of the weapons, and they all have good abilities, and we like all of them. Or if you're going to draw like a piece of search or something to make your deck a little faster. So we play all the weapons, very flavorful. Play all the gods, play all their weapons. We also play all of the Ascendancies from the new Khan's-Atar Kier block. I like these a lot. A lot of them have relevant effects. The only one that I'm not very impressed by in this deck is Mardu Ascendancy, which whenever a creature, non-token creature you control attacks, put a 1/1 goblin on the battlefield, tapped and attacking, which we're not really interested in aggroing out our opponent. So that one's really just there for the red, white, and black devotion, which all of them are there for. But Hammer Ascendancy probably has the most relevant text, which is whenever a creature with power of 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you can draw a card. So whenever our Sliver Hivelord enters the battlefield, we draw a card. Whenever any of our gods, if they're online as they're entering, we draw a card. Also, all creatures you have control have haste, so all of our mana dorks can tap as soon as they come out. So we run all the Ascendancies, mostly for devotion, but we end up using their abilities more often than not. Next, we're going to go into a little bit of our mana fixing. We run all of the border posts from the Shards of Alara block. They're really good. We could just run regular rocks, which we run some of those as well in here, but we like these because they give us devotion as well. They all enter the battlefield tapped, and they all have the ability, instead of paying their regular mana cost of 3, you can pay 1 colorless and return a basic land to its owner's hand. So you can actually play them on turn 1 by playing a basic land, tapping it for mana, returning it to your hand, and then putting the border post onto the battlefield. So that's a cool little trick. Works out pretty well. We just talked about a couple of our rocks that we're using, so we'll talk about the rest of the mana fixing in the deck. We play Chromatic Lantern, Astral Cornucopia, and Commander Sphere. They're all kind of the same deal. They're 3 colorless for an artifact, and they tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Astral Cornucopia, you can pay more into it, so if you pay 6, it gets 2 counters, and you can tap it for 2 mana, but usually we're just playing it on 3. And Chromatic Lantern is probably the best one out of here because it makes all of our lands tap for any color, which is pretty important in a 5-color deck. For creatures in our mana fixing, we have our 2 slivers, Gemhide Sliver and Manweft Sliver. These are pretty good because obviously they're 2 mana, and they have the ability that all sliver creatures, either you control or all sliver creatures period, have tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And if you have your Sliver Hivelord on the field, they become indestructible. So they're sweet blockers, and they also make your Sliver Hivelord tap for 1 of any color, which has been relevant before. Then we also have Birds of Paradise and Sylvan Caryatid, which are just very good mana fixers. They tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And Sylvan Caryatid, you pay 1 more, but it also has hexproof, and it's got a 0/3 body. So those are pretty sweet. They really help smooth the mana base together. After our mana fixers, we've got some of the good devotion in the deck. Nightveil Spectre is pretty sweet in a 5-color deck in Commander. Its ability is whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of his or her library, and you may play cards exiled with Nightveil Spectre. So if they exile a land, that's your land drop for the turn. If they exile any spell, you're going to be able to cast it because you're playing the 5-color deck. So it's pretty sweet. Prophet of Kruphix has really become a very important card in Commander. It's a 5-drop for 2/3. Untap all creatures and lands you control during each other player's untap step, and you may cast creature cards as though they had flash. So it's pretty sweet to be like, you're on 5, play Prophet of Kruphix, untap on your next opponent's turn, and then start just like flashing in gods. Really cool, really great card in this deck. Play Chromaticor, really great source of devotion. It's a 5-color card. It also has the Bestow for 1 of each color and 2 colorless. Chromaticor itself is a 4/4 with flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, and lifelink. And if we bestow it onto a creature, that creature has flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, and lifelink, and it gets +4/+4. A great play in this deck is to turn 5 your commander, and then if you have a dork out, you can turn 6, bestow the Chromaticor, and then just start going to beats down. And it's a double devotion if you have it bestowed, or if it's just on the battlefield with your commander. So it's really great. Genju of the Hidden Realm. This is probably one of my favorite cards to play in the deck. It's just hilarious. It's enchantment. You enchant a land. It's 1 of each color. You can tap 2 colorless, and the enchanted land becomes an 8/2 legendary spirit creature with trample until end of turn, and it's still land. So when you need to hold back a blocker, you've got this giant 8/12. When you just want to play it for devotion to get your gods online, you don't even have to activate it. You can just let it sit on land, and there's really nothing anybody can do about it because not many people are playing land destruction in our meta right now. But I suppose if people in your meta are playing like Wastelands and Strip Mines and Ghost Quarters and stuff, it might not be a great option. But for where I'm playing it, it's very good. This is the Beat Stick section. We have 2 cards, Hero's Podium and Door of Destinies. Let me tell you a little story about this Door of Destinies. It might not add devotion. You play it on turn 3 or 4. It's a 4-drop artifact. As it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Obviously, you're choosing God because we're playing the God Squad. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a charge counter on Door of Destinies. Creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+1 for each charge counter on Door of Destinies. So, throughout the course of the game, I usually play anywhere from 4 to 7 gods. So that's some serious buffs going on to your gods. And it's just a hilarious card to see the look on your opponent's faces when you say, really? You're playing Door of Destinies? Yeah, alright, we'll play that. Here's Podium. This actually just is a really great enabler for the deck. It's a 5-drop artifact. Legendary. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other legendary creature you control. All 15 of our gods are legendary. So there's the synergy. You can pay X and tap it and look at the top X cards of your library. You may reveal a legendary creature from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's late game. Maybe we played the 4 or 5 gods that we've drawn into this game. We can drop the Hero's Podium. Not only does it buff our gods, we can also use it to search for more gods to play. So it's a cool card. Really good in this fun, flavorful deck that we're playing. Next is our board wipes and destroy effects. First, I'd like to talk about probably the worst board wipe that we have in the deck, but I mean we have to play it, Anger of the Gods. We've been talking about how this is such a flavorful deck, and Anger of the Gods really just fits in there. Usually pretty much a dead card, usually only using it like to kill a couple things on the board, and it's not very good because people are playing big things in Commander, but you can't take it out. It's Anger of the Gods, and we're playing the God deck. So everything else is pretty standard, though. Everything else besides Cyclonic Rift would destroy creatures. Blasphemous Act deals damage. It doesn't say destroy, but if the creature dies, destroy still protects from the damage, killing it. So outside of Cyclonic Rift, which affects only your opponents anyway, nothing in our destroy pile is killing our gods that we have because they're all indestructible. So we have Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, Cyclonic Rift, Blasphemous Act, Supreme Verdict, Anger of the Gods, End Hostilities, Winds of Wrath, Dune Blast, and Martial Coup. And those are pretty important pieces to our deck, since they're not symmetrical destroy, they're only affecting our opponents. And next we're going to go over our search in the deck. We've got a couple pretty powerful cards to either get rolling or get pieces that we need, whether they be Mana Dorks or like a Prophet of Kruphix, or if it's just time, we can just go get gods and start cramming gods for the specific devotion that we need. So Sylvan Tutor and Worldly Tutor do the same thing, except Worldly Tutor is an instant, Sylvan Tutor is a sorcery. They're both 1 green. Search your library for a creature card and reveal it to all players, shuffle your library, and put it back on top of your library. So usually we're using that like turn 6 or 7 to get the god that we need to fill out our devotion. But sometimes we end up like looking for Sylvan Caryatid or something if we need to mana fix. Enduring Ideal, extremely hilarious in this deck. 5, 6, 7 mana for sorcery. Search your library for an enchantment card, put it into play, then shuffle your library. We talked about how all of our gods are legendary creatures. They're also all legendary enchantments. So we play this card, we search our library for an enchantment card, and put it onto the battlefield. Search our library for a god and put it on the battlefield. This card also has Epic. For the rest of the game, you can't play spells. That sounds pretty bad. Let's read the rest. At the beginning of each of your upkeeps, copy this spell except for its Epic ability. So, we wait until this is the last card in our hand, we cast it on 7 mana, search for a god. Alright, next turn, draw, search for a god. Alright, next turn, draw, search for a god. It's every turn searching for a god. You don't get to cast spells, but, I mean, at that point, who really cares? You're just cramming a god every turn. See the Unwritten and Tooth and Nail fill kind of the same roles in our deck. Look at a bunch of cards and pick a couple and put them on the battlefield. See the Unwritten says, reveal the top 8 cards of your library, put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest in your graveyard. If you have this Ferocious ability, you can choose 2 creatures and put them onto the battlefield instead of 1. Tooth and Nail, 5, 6, 7 mana with Entwine 2. So if you pay 9 mana altogether, you can search your library for 2 creature cards, and then you can put those 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Conflux is pretty sweet in this 5-color deck. 8 mana for a sorcery. Search your library for a white, blue, black, red, and green creature, white, blue, black, red, and green card, and reveal those cards and put them into your hand. So, really just a 1 for 5. Search for any 5 random things you want and put them into your hand. It's cool. And then Court of Calling and Green Sun Zenith really fill the same roles. Court of Calling is 3 green and X. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it on the battlefield. Court of Calling also has Invoke, so that can help out. Green Sun Zenith is green and X. Search your library for a green creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it on the battlefield. Then you shuffle Green Sun Zenith back into your library. So Green Sun Zenith, not really an issue with the green because we have so many green gods that we can usually fill out the devotion that we need, even though we're just searching for a green creature. So those are our searches in the deck. And last but not least, our lands. I'm not going to go over all of them. We run 38 lands. You can really run whatever you want. If you want to see which lands I'm running, this is more of a budget version. I don't have any fetches or duels. It's a lot of basics because we have Karametra in the deck that lets us search up forests and plains. I'll put all of the lands down in the deck description, in the description of the video. So if you're interested in those, you can go down there and look. I find that Scrylands are very helpful in this deck, and I think Scrylands are really great for any commander deck. So that was the deck. I hope you like it. God Sqaud, one of my favorite commander decks to play. Really middle of the pack deck. If you're in a pod where you've been getting targeted lately, this might be the deck for you. So thanks for watching, and tune in later for more deck techs.